There is a paradox in human relationships that most people sense, but few are willing to confront directly. Why is it that the people closest to us often become the most critical, the most dismissive, and sometimes the most destructive? You would expect hostility from strangers. You prepare for competition from rivals. But what you are not prepared for is resistance from your own circle, your family, your friends, your colleagues, the very people you assumed were your safe zone. And yet, time and time again, reality contradicts that belief. Because the closer the relationship, the sharper the comparison. And the sharper the comparison, the deeper the threat. The hidden mechanism why closeness breeds cruelty. Let's move beyond moral judgment. This is not simply about bad people. This is about structure, a psychological system that operates beneath awareness. There are three primary mechanisms at play. 1. Success is not seen as progress, but as threat. In modern psychology, this is known as relative deprivation. People don't suffer most from absolute failure. They suffer when someone they perceive as similar surpasses them. A stranger becoming wealthy, tolerable. Your cousin, your coworker, your friend, suddenly rising above you. That feels personal. Why? Because their success rewrites your position. It silently asks a dangerous question. If they could do it, why didn't you? And that question is psychologically destabilizing. So instead of celebrating their success, the mind reframes it as a threat. 2. Proximity intensifies comparison. We don't compare ourselves to billionaires on the other side of the world. We compare ourselves to people who started where we started. Same family, same school, same economic background. This is called proximal comparison, and it produces a very specific internal dialogue. They weren't better than me. We were equal, or I was ahead. So how did they surpass me? At this moment, the individual faces a psychological fork. Option 1, elevate oneself. Option 2, diminish the other. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people choose the second, not openly, not consciously, but subtly through doubt, dismissal, and discouragement. 3, jealousy is not emotion. It is defense. From a psychoanalytic perspective, jealousy is not merely a feeling. It is a defense mechanism. Its function is simple: to protect the ego from collapse. When reality threatens your self-image, your mind does not immediately accept the truth. Instead, it distorts it. They just got lucky. They're not that capable. It won't last. This is not analysis. This is psychological self-preservation, because accepting their success would mean confronting your own limitations. And that is far more painful. When it escalates from indifference to obstruction. Now we arrive at a more disturbing question. Why do some people go beyond indifference and actively try to block others? Why move from passivity to interference? The answer is strategic, though unconscious. Because if the other person never rises, the comparison never activates. No comparison, no threat, no psychological discomfort. So what happens? People begin to undermine your attempts, question your decisions, dismiss your ambitions, frame your growth as arrogance or betrayal. This is not guidance. This is suppression, the collective phenomenon when groups enforce limits. It becomes even more complex when groups are involved. Sometimes it's not just one individual. It's multiple people moving in alignment. Family systems, work environments, social circles. Here we see something different. Not individual insecurity, but collective regulation. The group enforces an invisible rule. Do not rise too far above us, because one person's upward movement threatens the stability of the entire hierarchy. So the group responds. Don't get ahead of yourself. You're being unrealistic. Stay where you belong. This is not concern. It is control. A deeper layer, the illusion of the self. Up to this point, psychology explains the mechanisms. But there is an even deeper layer, one that philosophy has explored for centuries. In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, we encounter a radically different interpretation. It states, what you perceive is not external reality, but a projection of your own mind. If this is true, then the implications are profound. Your jealousy is not caused by them. Your insecurity is not created by their success. Your suffering is not imposed from outside. It is generated within. The real source of conflict. Let's reframe everything. The problem is not their success, their behavior, their reaction. The problem is the structure of comparison within your own mind. Because comparison requires one assumption, that there is a fixed, stable self to defend. A me that must remain superior, relevant, or secure. But what if that self is not as solid as we believe? Then every comparison becomes a threat. Every success becomes destabilizing. Every relationship becomes a battlefield. The final insight: it was never about them. When someone tries to diminish you, it feels personal. But in reality, they are not attacking you. They are defending themselves. Defending a fragile narrative. I am competent. I am ahead. I am secure. And when that narrative cracks, fear emerges. That fear transforms into criticism, dismissal, obstruction. Not because they hate you, but because they fear losing themselves. So what should you do? This is where most people make a mistake. They try to change others, argue back, seek validation, suppress their own growth. But none of these address the core issue, because the problem is not people, it is perception. The real solution is not control, but awareness. To see clearly when comparison begins, when ego reacts, when defense mechanisms activate, and most importantly, to recognize that the threat you feel may not be real. Closing, the question was, why do those closest to us become the most cruel? The answer is not simple, but it is precise. Because closeness creates comparison. Comparison threatens identity, and threatened identity triggers defense. And sometimes that defense looks like cruelty, but beneath it, there is only fear. In the next lecture, we go even deeper. We will identify specific personality types within this structure. Those who quietly sabotage, those who manipulate from a distance, those who never acknowledge another's success, and more importantly, how to recognize them, how to respond, and how to remain unaffected. Because this is not just about relationships. It is about protecting your trajectory in life. If this perspective shifted the way you see people, then subscribe, like, and share this video, because understanding this structure might be the difference between being held back and moving forward. I'll see you in the next lecture.